Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Miracle Man number 11, and the revelation in this issue is truly epic. We actually see Darkseid eat a veggie tray. I kid you not. He eats a veggie tray. Isn't that well? It's awesome. It's so amazing. 9 panels of Darkseid eating a carrot. It's incredible. In fact, I'm going to show you. It's actually quite astonishing. I mean to pay. I'm $3.99 for an epically gorgeous issue of Darkseid standing with his minions and eating a veggie tray, like eating, and of course there is one way to know that Darkseid is in fact evil, and that is, yes people, he double dips once and then twice. And those of you who watch Seinfeld will understand the reference. Are you a double dipper? Darkseid is a double dipper, people. He's a double dipper. Now, if that means he's evil, well, now we know Darkseid is. Now we know how to finish that sentence. Darkseid is a double dipper, and that's why he's evil. He doesn't need the anti-life equation. He just needs a veggie tray, and he's gonna kick your ass. What he should have is Corona, and then he'd be set. But guys, so what about this issue? First of all, gorgeous covers. I got them both here. Fantastic. Look at that. Good God, look at that. Beautiful covers. Mitch Gerads, he did a fantastic job. I love this one. There's something about, Darkseid is, I always sort of like it's almost like, is he in reality? Is he real or isn't he? He's fading away. But what is real is love and hope as embodied by Jacob, And here we've got, in this cover, we've got Miracle Man, gazing up at Darkseid. So very symbolic of what happens in the issue. I gotta say, this issue I was impressed. I was impressed on a number of levels, but also there's a couple of criticisms I have. Number one, I think the 9-panel grid continues to just be pretty fantastic. There's some interactions here of a young Jacob, meeting Darkseid for the first time and sort of interacting with Darkseid. Now, what's funny about this is, remember that as part of their peace negotiations between New Genesis and Darkseid is that the deal was Darkseid says, look, I want your son. Scot-free, Mr. Miracle, Big Barda, you give me your son and to raise as my own, and I will give up the anti-life equation, and I will, there'll be peace and all will be good. I just need your son Jacob. Well, we know based upon the previous 10 issues, Tom King has gone 9-panel grid after 9-panel grid after 9-panel grid of showing the relationship between Scott Free and Big Barda, and juxtaposing the mundane versus the extraordinary violence of Apocalypse and the war that's going on there against New Genesis, etc., etc. So we know that Scott Free and Big Barda have a very powerful love. And so we know he's not going to give up Jacob. And what I really like about this is sort of like the plan, that the way that Scott Free battles Darkseid in this issue is really good. Obviously, it's I'm going to get into spoiler territory here because it's just kind of cool. Obviously, you can't defeat Darkseid by using any kind of weapon against him. He's just too powerful. Big Barda finds that out. So when they go and they purport to give Big Barda, Darkseid their son Jacob, but it's really just a fake out. And of course they attack Darkseid. Darkseid makes quick meat of Big Barda, dispenses with her easily, and he's beating the crap out of Scott Free. And interestingly enough, we know from the past issue that Orion was killed, and Scott Free essentially kills Darkseid with what they call a Farron knife, and a Farron knife was made from the flesh of Orion, because it's prophesized. Darkseid always knew what the prophecy was. Anyone who reads the Fourth World, who's if you're even slightly familiar with a little bit of Darkseid, New Genesis lore and mythology and prophecy, you know that Orion is destined to kill Darkseid and sort of take over Apocalypse at some point. And of course, it's sort of like it's similar in the Marvel universe, where with Thanos, there's probably I'm sure there's some prophecy that at some point prophesies that I'm sure that Gamora was to kill Thanos at some point. You know, they always incorporate mythology and prophecy to make things more at stake, and you know, make it such a big deal. In any event, Orion's dead, so how can Orion kill Darkseid? It's simple. You make a knife out of Orion's dead corpse, and that's basically what Mr. Miracle did. So, so he stabs Darkseid in the eye with a fair knife made from Orion's dead corpse, and basically that's what kills Darkseid, and that's interesting. Now, there's a couple things that Tom King does in this issue that I think that I find probably don't quite jive with continuity. He suggests when Darkseid goes to give Darkseid, when they hand over Jacob and Darkseid gives him the anti-life equation, Darkseid rips out one of his eyes and gives him his eyes, and Darkseid explains that, well, you know that the anti-life equation is just knowledge. It's knowledge that life is useless, life is pointless, and life is not fair. Life is about shame and hatred and everything else, and depression. And the only way that Darkseid could activate or really do the schematics, was the phrase he used, was if he used his Omega beams. And that's new, because that's not throughout all of... I remember reading Final Crisis, Grant Morrison. There was never a suggestion that Darkseid needed his Omega beams to channel the use of the anti-life equation. But here it's suggested that by ripping out his eyeball and giving it, by ripping out his eyeball, somehow Darkseid, if he can't use his Omega beams, he cannot access the anti-life equation. Well, that just doesn't make any sense. And may I also say that what's the point of giving somebody the anti-life equation if the only way to access the anti-life equation is with Omega beams? Then it's fairly useless. Then it's not something that Big Barda and Scott could use anyway. And anyways, it's wrong. It's just plain wrong. The anti-life equation is not something that is accessed by... That's wrong. That's wrong. Absolutely 100% wrong. The anti-life equation is an equation. Yes, it's knowledge, but it's an equation that anybody can use if you know it, and if you channel it, you can basically create a lot of depression, a lot of hurt, and a lot of destruction. So that doesn't make any sense that the Omega beams channel it. I don't know where Tom King was thinking. I don't know where he got that from. Maybe some of you guys can enlighten me. I'm not an expert on Fourth World lore. Did I miss something? I don't recall ever reading that. I don't like it. It's a very bad thing. The anti-life equation is not something that should be able to be channeled have anything to do with Omega beams on Darkseid. That's ridiculous. It actually defeats the purpose of the anti-life equation if somehow shooting beams out of eyes... It's just dumb. It was dumb. It was really, really dumb. It was very, very forced. And if it's a criticism I have of Tom King, he does this repeatedly in Batman, and he's done it here. He's forced the ridiculous plot element in order to create a scene that he thinks works. So he thought it would be a cool scene where Darkseid rips his eyes out, hands it to Big Barda so she can squish Darkseid's eye, thinking that, so now I got your eyeball, the anti-life equation doesn't work anymore. Squish? Really? That was really pathetic. It didn't work. It doesn't work. But where it will work to the casual reader who's not familiar with the actual truth of the anti-life equation and how it at the very least ought to work, given its rich history and lore, which has been decimated by one badly written plot point in here, is it makes for a good scene that if people don't know it, they're going to think, oh cool, and that's really not the point of the story. The point of the story is that where I can maybe forgive it is the point of the story is Scott Free and Big Barda having victory over Darkseid, defeating him by killing him with a Farron knife made by the dead corpse of Orion, and at the end, Darkseid is revealed to actually be Metron. And Metron, of course, is he sits on the Mobius chair, and he basically tells Scott, it's now time, my son, time to look into the face of God and hear your cheers and take your bow. Where you are now is not where you should be, Scott Free. Well, if Scott Free is not where he should be, where should he be? Well, according to Metron, he should be in another world. There is another world, he says, and that looks to be the DC universe. So that raises some questions, and that's how it ends. It ends on a full-page spread, and I think this is the very first. This is the very first full-page spread that we have ever seen, I think, in this series so far. So that's interesting. Now, I'm not sure what's going on because, Metron appears and says there's another world out there. But what have we been exposed to in the last 11 issues or the last 10 issues? Orion has been going back and forth between what we thought was the mainstream DC universe and Apocalypse New Genesis. If that wasn't the mainstream DC universe, what universe was it? Maybe it was all in his head. There's still an inclination for me to believe that this is all in his head. Maybe this is all imaginary. But what I like about it is that even if this is all taking place in Scott Free's head, it ends with him being victorious and him escaping the death trap of the anti-life equation in his own mind, and that's what I like about it. So it still works. So I'm prepared to forgive that idea that the Omega beams that somehow are connected to the anti-life equation, because if it takes place all in Scott Free's head, then we don't have to worry about it, and it's all imaginary anyway. So overall, I like this. It's a great issue. I like it's a great issue overall. And again, I nitpicked, and I'm always hard on bits and pieces of it. But I think overall it's going to work as just a short, concise narrative, especially if you're just reading it as a one-shot and you don't read it as, if you just want to read the 12 issues, and this is just issue 11, we still have one coming out. Quite frankly, it could have ended on this issue. I don't even need another issue, to be blunt with you. I'm a little bit surprised that Metron appears. Who is Metron really? I think Metron might just be a doctor trying to revive Scott Free, who's still tried to kill him. I think Metron is the doctor, or is a form of a doctor trying to reach Scott Free because he's maybe in a coma from the suicide attempt he had in issue 1, and that's going to be revealed in issue 12. That's my guess. I could be completely wrong. I don't know, but it is what it is. Guys, tell me what you think. I think it's pretty good. Mr. Miracle number 11. Until next time, Comic Boom out.